Welcome to Deepnight Revlation. We will be picking up where we left off last week. So last week there was all sorts of adventure and thrilling heroics and stupid mistakes. They came out of Jump thinking that it was going to be a fairly typical refueling at a comet. And when they got out of Jump, they realized that this wasn't a single or solid cometary body. Instead, it had, at some point, this comet had broken up and was a just big debris field flying through the galaxy. And so, what this entailed was their small craft having to essentially land on some of these larger chunks, and the chunks were between 10 and 100 meters in diameter. And they would land, siphon the water that they found, then hop to another site, sometimes on the same chunk, to find another pool of ice to siphon. And this led to, some reckless behavior by the crew. And one crew, they they were hanging on to the outside of the boat, and it bounced, and the pilot screwed up, and it had some major problems. And one of the crew members that was hanging on the outside wasn't even tethered, and so they fell off, bounced off the rock, busted their leg in 3 or 4 places, and then were flung off into space. But thanks to them, they were a consummate professional and were able to radio in and give details of what was going on with the boat, which had, major problems. And then along with that situation, you had another boat that tried to rush in to do the rescue, who also crashed and had a big chunk of ice go through the windscreen and through the pilot, and but everybody survived. So, and where we left off, they were heading back to Revelation, with knowing that the initial person who fell off and busted her leg, it was after being examined by Dr. Bocephus. If she were to keep that leg, she would probably walk with a limp for the rest of her life. She was going to have multiple surgeries to fix the leg, and we'll get into that.
I'm sure she'll be much happier with the tentacle Dr. Bocephus is going to get her.
Yes.
Well, no, I was thinking of, more like a fawn leg,
Give her goat legs.
Yeah.
But,
For mountain climbing and jumping ability,
Yeah, the joke was, I said that look at examining her, you're thinking that she'll always walk with a limp. And he says, no, that's not what I'm thinking at all. I'm thinking that she's going to need a cybernetic leg, and I'm just going to amputate. And then, of course, the other leg's not going to match, so I'm going to have to take that one, too. And really, though, and I was like, initially my thought, yes, it's all fun and games and jokes. And my initial thought was, I doubt that anybody would do that. However, Lynn, who's the name of the woman that is injured, is a professional EVA specialist, right? And an EVA specialist with a limp is a problem. So she might actually go for that. She might actually go for the whole cybernetic leg option.
How about?
I'm thinking.
Well, now, let's not jump the gun. What if we took both legs and replaced it with like a little grab
hover jets?
So she'll just
make her like the Jetsons.
Yeah.
Having matching legs that don't require batteries is a definite advantage.
I mean,
true.
Well,
I mean, most augments would be powered by the energy that you create by movement or just natural energy created by the human body, I would think so.
Right, but I mean, you're
We're
looking
not
at a
talking about
bust.
bionics.
But but again, you're going to want to do both legs because if they don't match, that's a real problem. And
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm totally down with giving her a nice set of like
I would really hope.
PL12.
I would
I would
really
say just
hope by.
giving her old leg back is the best bet.
I forget what the Earth year is. I mean, it was like around 1105 Imperial year when you left. That's like 5,125 or something like that in real years. And I would hope that by 5125 we would be able to have the technology to replace only one leg. You know what I mean?
They can replace it, but I mean, we could also regrow her.
That's true
old
too,
leg
and that's a part of augmentation as well.
and have it actually match the other leg and work perfectly
Right.
fine.
Right, and that's a part of augmentation too. I mean, the Essential Supply Catalog and the core rulebook kind of talk about it doesn't have to be cybernetic. It could be vat-grown tissue, which obviously Bocephus has the technology to do. I mean, she's not going to be running around with a plunger on one leg and a garbage can on the other.
Oh hell no! It'll be classy and tasteful.
Kind of. Along with giving her the Midnight Mistress upgrade.
Well,
Before we get started, we'd like to bring your attention to the fact that we have a merch store via Zazzle. There are T-shirts and buttons and hoodies and whiskey rocks glasses and beer steins, poster maps for your walls, all sorts of merchandise in there. And 100% of the proceeds from that store goes back into our channel. It helps us pay for things like Roll20 Pro subscription, things like Incarnate Pro that we use for making a lot of our maps, things like that. And they're all the little minor monthly fees that when they all group up and gang up on you at the end of the month, they're not that minor anymore. So if you want to, if you like the channel and you want to help us out, go get yourself a Whiskey Rocks class, and we appreciate everything you do for us. All right. We will just jump right into things. So, yeah. So that where we left off is kind of where we're picking up. You are in the medbay, Dr. Bocephus. What would you? Let me. Before I ask you that, let me get to that page. So. So I guess the first question: are you wanting to try to save the leg? Are you wanting to are you wanting to go cybernetic? Are you wanting to go vat grown? I would think that cybernetic might be easier than vat grown because
the thing is, she's going to want both legs to be cybernetic if she's doing one.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, I think I want to give her a couple of new legs, you know, maybe enhance her speed and God, if I could really attach some magnetic shit along them to help her on.
Well, I mean,
on walking along the.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that.
I'm looking through the shit right now to see if anything.
So I mean, so it says right here in the core rulebook, it says most of the items in this category. This is at the very first page of augments on page 106. It says most of the items in this category can be cybernetic, mechanical, or electronic implants and prosthesis, or biological, genetic engineering, and surgical alternation. That's spelling her. Or both, or a common solution, but the general term is augment, is used for all of them. So, I mean, just because, let's say that you did go the biological route, and you amputated, regrew another leg, and reattached. That doesn't mean that you can't do augmented implants into it. So, like, if you wanted to give her, I don't know, magnetic grapplers on her feet, those could be implanted into her flesh and blood
Yeah,
feet. You know what I
let's
mean?
do that. Let's clone her leg and then augment them both to, help her better at her duties. And maybe even put a little smuggling container in there. You know,
You could probably do that too. So you're
yeah,
probably saying, let's see, not trigger.
yeah. That's what I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna I'm gonna operate on her good leg, so she'll be better off with being the EVA, and then I'll throw a smuggling container in there, and
So I mean, this would be let's see. I would
and then
say
I'm
that
gonna
this would automatically gain self-repairing because it is
yeah,
a natural. I mean, it is technically her leg. Um,
sure,
this might be an interesting one if you look in Central Supply Catalog, page 49. Um, ruggedized. Considering that she would be spending a lot of her time as an EVA specialist, she's going to be outside. Ruggedized shields the any electronics in her augments from outside energy sources, so like EMP, things like that.
yeah,
That might not be a bad idea, and that's only tech level 8. It
yeah.
is
We could
it is
definitely do
expensive
that.
at plus 25% of the augment. This would, of course, be natural looking TL14.
Hmm.
Yeah. Naturalized, ruggedized, and self-repairing are the three I like
Yeah.
in most stuff that I'm buying for myself.
I mean, you could be a
Yeah.
dick and make it detachable.
No,
you
nope,
know,
not doing that.
just in
I'm
case.
I'm trying to.
And
Yeah,
now
I'm
we
trying
have
to.
detachable penis.
Right?
My
I know.
Thank
Just
you.
Yeah,
just in case she wants to get freaky with the stump.
I can give her a penis,
You can. Yes, you can. You could do that. Yes.
but I'm
Um.
not. I'm not going to do that. I'm gonna. I want her to have better legs than what she started with because I'm all about improving people's dispositions.
So
And
looking at, yeah, this is. That's funny because when you look at limbs, about the only one here is prosthetic limb, and it doesn't really. They don't have anything for legs. Hmm. Interesting. So I guess it would be. So you're going with the only additional thing that you're wanting to add to that would be the secret compartment.
yeah, I mean for tools and drugs, it just seems handy to have.
Not going with the naturalized, ruggedized, or self-repairing.
Yeah, I
Oh
would
yeah, I'm going with
definitely do that.
those and a smuggling container and some sort of special magnetized implant so
Yeah.
be
So
better at EVA.
let's see here. No, it's not. Oh, here we go. So you're probably looking at improved TL9 prosthetic limb on
Mhm.
page 57. So no dex
Okay,
penalty. So there's
right.
5K. And of course you're doing this. I'm just adding up um, the value here, and then let's see where. Well, you want TL14 naturalized. So here. So that's going to bring it to
enhanced mobility.
Okay, hold on. So that's going to bring it to 8750 plus ruggedized. Which brings it to 10 grand, and then self-repairing for 15,000. Where was what? Do you know what page the secret compartment's on?
Smuggler's compartment is on 54. TL8
There it is,
15.
smuggling container.
Yeah.
So that brings it to 30,000.
And
then
then
you wanted
we're
to
going to page 56, the enhanced mobility, the TL11 improved.
Okay. So
Adds
+3 movement,
+3.
plus
And then
DM2 to relevant checks. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would think
We'll do
that
that.
that would. Well, maybe not. Let's see here. Let me look at our mag boots. I know they must exist. I might be wrong though. Here we go. Magnetic
Man,
grapples. That's close enough. Page 24. Magnetic plates insert into boots to allow the user to walk normally on spacecraft or other ferromagnetic surface without artificial gravity. Those are 100 apiece. I would assume that that's going to include 2. They will not allow the wearer to walk on walls or ceilings in normal gravity. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I would assume that for 100 credits, you're getting 1 for each. You're getting 2. They're not going to sell you only 1 boot with a magnetic grapple in it. So, plus another 100. Now, so that answers those questions for me. And then, installation of augments often requires very extensive well, yeah, no shit. You're reattaching a leg. And modifying another one. Huh?
have all kinds of appropriate skill sets in this shit.
Right. So, go ahead. First class hospital services will not apply if the traveler visits a backstreet or illegal augments dealer. I love those. And so there will normally be no actual danger in the process. However, it will take time, typically 1D weeks, although this is often reduced through the use of a slow drug. Yeah, so you're looking at shit, 1 week of recovery time, which you can, if you want to make a medic plus education check, first of all make a medic plus education check, and we may actually already reduce this depending on your success.
Okay. I want to do the best roller. 2, 3. And do I get any kind of bonuses for using med bays and shit?
Yes, med bay. I want to say the med bay gives you a +2, but it might be a plus. No, it's +2.
All right. 14.
Okay, so that is a +6. So that shaves 3 days off of that 1 week, making it 4 days of recovery time. Now, if you wanted to, you could use a slow drug. And I don't think.
Yeah, every day is 30 days. So
Right.
Yeah,
But
I,
I
you know,
was gonna say I don't think he. I mean, slow drug is some dangerous shit. But
it's not worth it if you're looking at a 3-day recovery.
nope. I'm gonna
right,
just go with the natural 3-day recovery. Uh, stay in the mid bay, and then after that, she needs to be off duty for a week while she uh
it,
gets used to her new capabilities.
yeah.
And then if provided she can
You're gonna
pass a
you're gonna have the old 1970s bionic $6 million man montage with her running on a treadmill and checking her
fuck
pulse.
yeah,
And,
man, with some good catchy fucking tunes.
yeah, there's gonna be some
You
disco playing
know,
in the background,
fuck yeah, man.
and then you're gonna send her into a training hall to fight bionic Sasquatch, and you know because
Yeah,
it's not really
yeah,
necessary, but I mean everybody's gonna want to see it.
yeah. Well, it's something.
So
But yeah, that's what I want to do for her.
so yeah, surgery goes off without a hitch. And she's going to be down for 4 days.
Mhm.
You know, pretty much bed rest, but then after that, well, probably bed rest for the first 2 days, and then mild, occasional movement with your nurse. Probably Stimpy, helping her,
Yeah,
walk around with her IV bag and whatnot, and then from there on out, she's going to be in rehabilitation. But
yeah,
yeah, the surgery went off spectacularly.
of course.
And during this time, of course, they've Deep Night has refueled in this process in this 4 days and makes their jump to the next system. Now, and this is more for Will, so I will show you what this last system looked like. I mean, it was a party. So this was the last system that they were in. Um, what was this? This was DSR 7, and it was just a mess. But one of the things that was noted about this system, and they did some long range telemetry, of course, prior to getting here, and they noted two things. So this DSR 7 and DSR 8, the other system that they're jumping to now. Uh, the weird thing is that both of these are on the exact same trajectory. So they're assuming that that DSR 7 was either a part of DSR 8 and somehow got blown away, or that both of them are coming from yet even further in system that or whatever that blew it away. Um, they they have been doing long range telemetry from this system. Actually, all of this can go away. It doesn't need to be making your guys' life any more complicated than it already was. So, doing long range telemetry to a system that they are calling DSS 5. They are detecting, and that they are hopeful that this is going to be an actual system that they can jump into rather than, for instance, DSR 8 they know is a rogue gas giant, and then after DSR 8 they know that DSS 4 is a small, very 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 small F7 yellow white star. And but at this range, that's about all they know about it. The abnormal thing about it is that it is very peculiarly small. It is odd. And then beyond that, they are detecting in what they call DSS 5 is a binary star system that is proving to be quite interesting. They have two stars that are orbiting one another. but that's still too far out for them to get a whole lot of information. So during this 4 days, they do make the jump to DSR 8, and this is basically what you see. This is a rogue gas giant with its own little solar system of moons that are still orbiting it. Um, Initial scans of this um, are not. DSR 8 is not. It's not spectacular in any way, other than it's a rogue gas giant. Um, it's up to you what you guys want to do. There is a small ring system around around this rogue gas giant. The ring system is in a very so on this map, of course, because of the software that generates it. Looks perfectly round. It is not perfectly round. It is kind of trailing behind the gas giant in the direction that it's trailing behind the direction that this thing is traveling, behind the last cometary debris. Um, so you could just tell. I mean, Deepnight could just basically refuel here, or you guys can do a little bit of investigation. It's up to you.
I think we need to do some investigation. We need to make sure that there's not minerals and resources that we need. We need to check and at least do a rudimentary check and see if there's other drawing archaeological sites, remnants, things like that around.
That makes sense.
I mean,
Plus, we sound like we had some vehicles maybe get damaged that should
yeah,
Yes.
possibly be serviced.
Yeah, there are at least two utility boats that are in the repair bays. They're going to be out of commission for a while. And you've got let's see. In addition to Lynn and her leg, there were three other people on the side of that boat. And so what happened with that boat is it lost power and it was spinning. And they were on tethers, and so like a tetherball, they were just going around, and it made rescue very difficult because they couldn't just dock up with it because two reasons: one, the guys spinning around the outside of it would just run into your ship, and two, if they docked up with it and stopped it from spinning, they wouldn't stop spinning, and like a tetherball, they would just come in and smash into the ship. But they they solved it by jumping from the airlock over to the boat and grabbing on and climbing in and doing it that way. But the guys that were spinning, they were spinning for a while, even during the rescue, and the entire time of doing this, they were getting slammed into chunks of ice. So you've got at least three crew members there that are injured, plus some of the crew members inside the ship from the initial hit. Some minor injuries, nothing major, but you've got probably, with including Lynn, you've got at least out of that boat, 6 crew members that are injured and off the roster. Plus you've got Orland, who almost died. So there's 7 people that are down and 2 utility boats. That's probably actually I think that's one of the highest body counts you guys have had. I mean, it's not like they're dead, but I mean, that was a really close one. There was I rolled a couple of times and was surprised at how well those dice rolls came out.
Yeah, I'm gonna focus on Lynn and other medical staff throughout the Deepnight can kind of, if they need, I understand that I am the best physician on the ship by far. I mean,
well, as one of the commanders of the mission division, I would, and being, the medic for special missions, you're probably at this point considered the lead medical officer.
Yeah. Okay. Well, um, you don't get good at shit if you don't practice.
Right.
And so I mean, I'll, I'll let everybody observe how I do with Lynn, but unless they need me specifically for more difficult things or need me to, oversee, I really want to try to keep the staff involved in this. And so, I'll take my patient and work hard on it, and then I'll oversee things. We have a good med bag, gives bonuses, so we'll see.
So initial scans of I was going to say system, but I mean I guess it's a system. Um, of the rogue gas giant and its moons. They agree that they are suggesting that it was ejected from the same star system simultaneously with DSR 7, the cometary debris that you just came from. Um, it says I mean, the science division and sense ops comes back and lets you know that really the only real way to exactly verify this information would be to take samples from some of the moonlets and compare them to samples taken from the refueling op at at DSR 7 and compare them to see if they did come from the same location.
Yeah, might as well. I mean, we're going out and refueling and shit anyway. I mean, it's not that much more work, is it?
Well, I mean, you're probably taking a little bit of time. I mean, you don't even have to do it. You could send another utility boat or a pinnace to do it. From what you have many crew beneath you. To take
Yeah.
samples. I mean, there's really no compared to where you just came from. There's really no danger here, other than maybe a lack of light.
Right.
That is such trap language. There's almost no danger.
Right? Well, I mean, so yeah, there's always there is of course always some amount of danger. Um, really, a lot of the stuff that happened previously um, probably wouldn't have been as bad um, if the crew hadn't been doing things like hanging off the outside. Now, that of course, hanging on the outside of a ship that's basically making a jaunt of 20 meters to another site for siphoning fuel. That's of course every drill instructor and every first year EVA person is going to be told to not ever do that. But um, for instance, Lynn, whose leg was badly injured, she's an EVA expert, and she is steadfastly against the fact that they weren't following regs. She does not accept the fact that anything that she did was wrong. Hanging untethered on the outside of a craft, making a short movement in an area where rescue was likely to be quickly available. She said this is common practice among experienced personnel, although rookies are constantly told not to emulate it. In the event, she says, actually, in this event, being untethered actually saved her from worse problems, which is mostly true. It also kind of falls under, yeah, you're not supposed to do it, but you do what has to be done to get the job done under the time constraints given kind of situation. And so probably they probably need addressing down, but a lot of this was caused by their own mistakes. Going back to it doesn't there doesn't seem to be much that's going to be a danger in here until somebody makes it dangerous, more or less. I mean, there's always a possibility of somebody doing something stupid.
Well, it sounds like I missed a hell of a session last week.
Yeah, it was really complicated, to be quite honest. There was like 3 different rescues going on at the same time, and one guy was bleeding out, and yeah, it was not only bleeding out, but was in a cabin that was losing pressure because the
Mhm.
icicle came through the glass. So yeah, it was a good time.
Well,
We kind of washed him.
yeah, it was fun. I mean, and then before that, we had a lot of information about the drawing coming through and all that. So,
Yeah, there was the droid pyramid, and so
yeah.
so you're not detecting anything. There's no structures on any of these bodies, but well, let's go ahead and find out. So there was no mishaps. This system, they come back and they do confirm that the science division confirms that the samples from these um, these moons are almost identical to the samples taken from DSR-7. Um, they're the science division and the planetology division are under the impression that whatever destroyed or caused DSR-7 to break up into that debris cloud and sent it on its way likely was the same event that caused this gas giant to be spewed out of their system. Something cataclysmic happened. Um, some catastrophic impact or another event. No, hold on, let me see. It says so. They're also saying is that DSR-7, what they initially on long range surveys thought when they initially saw DSR-7, they thought it was a comet. Um, that proved to not be entirely true, although they did find ice. Um, what they're guessing is that DSR-7 is what remains of a moon. Likely, what they're thinking now is that it was a moon from this gas giant, and it's only part of that moon. They're thinking that the rest of it was either ejected completely in a random direction or fell into the gas giant itself. Aside from that, I mean, you're talking about a couple days worth of refueling op, and then they're ready to jump. Is there anything that you guys want to do in this amount of time? I suppose. Um, so you made this last jump. I would say, and of course, Bocephus was busy with Lynn. I would say that Sarda and Mel, if you wanted to add a week to your study period, you could, unless there was something else that you wanted to focus on.
Not offhand that I can think of. And I wasn't here last week, so I don't know if I missed any weeks. Probably one other week. So right, we jumped to
Correct. So yeah, you could add 2 weeks.
that. Okay.
I guess both of you can add 2 weeks because Jack wasn't here either.
And 8 weeks is the magic number, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Depends. I mean,
Well,
they're kind of a magic number no matter what, but
yeah,
Well,
one study period is 8 weeks.
right.
yeah.
You have to roll for every 8 weeks.
Right.
But if you're trying to go like from 3 to 4, it's a shit ton.
Well,
Yeah,
but it's still multiple 8-week
Right.
training
Right.
periods.
Then you're talking about 4 study periods, with each study period being 8 weeks. All right. So, did anybody hit the 8-week mark?
No.
Okay. So, yeah, they gas up and move on. To DSS 4. So this is the very, very small F7 star. that they were seeing on long range. And now that they're in system, there is some really unusual stuff going on with this F7 star. Unusual in terms of its projected mass and spectral emissions. So it appears to be an F7, but it is highly unstable. Let's see here. What all did they find? So it indicates that the star itself is highly unstable. It is very hot. It only has two major bodies, a small gas giant and a small rocky body, terrestrial. There is a large outside of these planetary rings, off screen. There is a large and complex planetoid belt that seems to be of recent formation. And when I say recent, the science team is estimating a few 100,000 years. And it's a very wonky planetary belt. Like its orbit is all weird and screwed up. And again, it's kind of trailing behind this, the small star. And a lot of the chunks, I mean, you're not talking about like a normal planetary system. You're seeing some fairly large chunks floating around. Some of these the size of like Ceres. So they're not small asteroids. A lot of this is big pieces. Now they do say that this this weird unstable star is it is moving. And at the rate that it is moving, it will eventually make its way into charted space. But that's not going to happen for, a couple million years. So for the foreseeable future, and this is probably the first time that they can check this box, this star, DSR-8, or I'm sorry, DSS-4, is a suitable refueling point for the foreseeable future. The foreseeable future being the next couple thousand years. Things in space move slow. The science team brings SARTA some data. They want SARTA to take a closer sensor look at the terrestrial body. If you would like to make a electronic sensors plus intellect or education check.
+2 for the ship.
Nice.
12, yeah.
So let's see here. So your sensor data, this small gas giant is again not very remarkable, other than the fact that it's in a fairly eccentric orbit and it seems to be collecting debris from that, mostly the smaller debris from the outer belt is kind of occasionally streaming in. So this small gas giant is starting to form a ring system, but it almost seems like it's new. Like this gas giant, the gas giant itself looks like it's fairly old, but the ring system is new, like it's a newly birthed gas giant. It's very peculiar. The terrestrial world is even weirder. It is on an extreme elliptical orbit, and it will be completely knocked out of, or not knocked out, but will just be far enough away in its elliptical that the small F7 isn't going to be able to hang on to it, and it'll get ejected as a rogue. But that's going to be in a few tens of thousands of years. But one, where is it? It says the planet has retained some of its original dense exotic atmosphere of methane and ammonia, which shrouds the surface in clouds. It is especially these clouds seem to coalesce, especially over a disturbance of a wide area on one of the hemispheres. Um, appears that there's a large crater. When I say large crater, like part of the hemisphere is gone.
Like, oh, okay, so like a large asteroid type thing.
Yeah, it looks like it kissed somebody.
It doesn't look like the orbital bombardment that they were doing on the one drawing planet, where they were trying to smoke out the slime.
No.
What's
this looks like an impact.
What's this middle orbit that doesn't have any body in it?
It's empty. It looks like, according to your scans, it looks like something may have been there at one time and is now not. There is this small asteroid here, small tiny planetoid of what is left of whatever it was that was in this orbit. But aside from that, there's nothing else there.
I mean, if we really care about investigating what caused the crater, I think we should at least do a flyby and make sure that, none of our friends have left us anything.
So the science division looks over these sensor scans, and they, looking at this hemisphere, they see that this is what appears to be a large crater, about 100 kilometers deep, and partially it has filled with lava from the planet. It is filled with lava from the planet's molten core. Average depth is about 30 to 40 kilometers. There are deep fissures in some places. The mission team wants to send a mission over there to descend into the crater and take samples. Because this is the first time that anybody's been this close to the core of a world, and an active world with a molten core. But the one problem with that, of course, is that the pressure at the surface is little more than half an atmosphere, but at 30 kilometers down in the crater, it rises to about 10 atmospheres.
Man, we're short boats, and we've got injured crew that are going through rehab and getting worked in. I mean, unless it's something other than curiosity, I gotta go against that. I think we ought to keep moving and healing and get all our shit.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Packed up. I mean, I understand the curiosities and all that, but there's all kinds of shit and data that we've been getting them within the last month. They can crunch numbers and all that.
Yeah, I think as long as our ships are, as long as we've got our boats back in operation, I think it's time to move on.
Okay. All right. So you kind of shut that down. I mean, there is a bit of argument from the science division saying, that they could use the exploration suits, so the pressure and the in the crater wouldn't be a big deal. But they concede that you guys have had a bit too much adventure lately, and like you said, you've got two boats that are in the the rebuild cradles, and so with the injuries that have been taken, they completely understand that.
We will add that to our list of planets to visit on the way back.
Yeah.
Yes, this list is starting to get long. So yeah,
they need to realize that our, while we are exploring and gathering information, that is not our primary mission. Our primary mission is to survive and be in as good as condition as possible for when we hit fucking, ground zero of the fungus.
So that is an interesting point to bring up. And all of you can make your choice, either a streetwise or a streetwise plus intellect or a carouse plus social check.
Ten.
7.
I'm trying to figure out which is the best one for me to use. You said social?
Yeah, either carouse plus social or streetwise plus intellect. Or I guess, no, it would be streetwise plus intellect. Education doesn't really play much into street. Unless you're
They're
educated.
kind of opposite.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yes, they're kind of opposite. Holy shit, that's pretty good.
All
So-
right, Jack.
So,
It's a +1.
so Bocephus doesn't glean any information. He's focused on Lynn's recovery and her. Go ahead, Bocephus. Go ahead and make a medic plus education check.
And if the ship gives any, add it, whatever. I got 15 with my base skills.
So yeah, your base skills are really what's going to apply. I mean, yeah, there's probably an equipment bonus, but really this was to check your skills for, I guess, vocational rehab. You are, going through the motions, helping her learn to walk with her new leg and her augments, and with a 15, things are going really well, exceptionally well. But Mel and Sarda, kind of on your off hours, you start in the mess halls and in the officers' lounges. You're starting to pick up that there is a new type of factionalization happening among the crew. There are two camps, or I guess that's incorrect. There are 8. So you've had this problem before, with factions within the crew. So what the factions that you already know about primarily consist of the Imperials, being that they are loyal to the Third Imperium above all other considerations. So they are here because they believe that the Imperium needs to be protected, and for the most part, that means that the Imperials are completely all about getting to Terminus Point and putting an end to the Deepnight entity. The Imperials would put it that way, put an end to the Deepnight entity, although that may not be 100% accurate. The other, the opposite of the Imperials are the Deepnight Loyalists. Now, the Deepnight Loyalists, of course, are completely loyal to the corporation, and they, strongly suggest maintaining the chain of command and doing whatever would be best for Deepnight LLC. You've got, of course, in the science and part of the mission division, you've got the researcher faction who wants to go out and investigate every single little oddity that they find. You guys, you've dealt with them a lot, and I will say, over the entire course of this entire mission, you've really bowed to them quite a bit. There's not a whole lot that the researcher you've said no to. I think this planet, going out and exploring this crater, is probably one of the first times you've actually said, no, that's a bad idea.
Well, it just didn't seem like we really can gain that much
Right.
from crater. You know,
Right.
And the
once you've
messaging.
once you've stepped on a
ahead.
gas giant, once you've stepped on a gas giant or a comet,
Or a frozen star. I mean,
yeah, it you know, a crater is just not that exciting.
The the Imperium loyalists. I mean, the messaging that I would suggest we have to them is, we're not just placating the deep night scientists in the research. Is we are actively searching for information, signs of previous expeditions,
right.
that could have intelligence,
Right, and that
knowledge or
interests
something.
the researchers too. So,
Yeah,
I mean, they're you placating them, but mostly because they're doing their part. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Another faction that has reared its ugly head twice are the mutineers, and both times, the first time that was kind of put down. I was going to say heavy-handed, but I really don't feel that it was heavy-handed. It was the appropriate response, and it was dealt with diplomatically and legally without losing any crew members. The second time, you guys were just like, yep, fuck you guys, you can stay on the planet. And you just left them behind. And then, of course, there are the disaffected members that kind of fall into two categories. The disaffected being the ones that are depressed or are homesick, that Bocephus has been dealing with, that have been a constant problem. And some of these people are just homesick and they want to go home. The other half of those have kind of become glory hounds. Basically taking too many risks or being daredevils because, I don't know, they're bored. They don't have anything left. Who knows what their reasoning is? But those kind of the disaffected and the glory hounds are almost part of the same group. At least the reasoning behind it is the same. But Mel and Sarda, you come across, a couple more factions and grumblings, among the crew. And part of this is, and this is, it's important to say that this is not a mutiny, another mutiny, which at first listening to some of these conversations in the mess hall, that is probably one of the first things that jumps to mind is, oh shit, are we going to have to deal with this again? But it's not. Listening further, you find that some of the crew are talking about that Deep Night should turn back. There is a debate raging. Some of the crew seem to be mission loyalists, and some are advocating for turning around. And not that this is really, if they're following the chain of command, it's not really their decision, but this is the conversation that's going on. And a lot of the argument that's being made is that the mission has already made discoveries that could advance the cause of science by many, many years if they were to turn around and go home now. And the question being put forth is, don't we have a duty to return home and to report this information that we've found to advance the causes of science and technology back home? And some of the expeditions that you've done were only studied for a few days, and those few days could yield many years worth of advancement at home. Then you have the other side saying, mission loyalists saying, no, and this is, oddly enough, this is mostly coming from the Imperials, saying that, and the Imperials and the corporate loyalists are saying that we need to get to the end of this. We're not just here to get information. We're here to put a stop to the Deep Night entity for one reason or another. So you two are picking this up. And Mel, you are As soon as the ship makes its next jump, you are invited by some members of the crew to talk at a kind of town hall meeting about this topic itself. And you were selected because of your present plug-in with the black market aboard Deepnight, because you guys have never really replaced the one guy who's still sitting in your brig.
Oh, I think this is a terrible idea.
I don't think any of these plants are suitable to let him go.
You could drop him off in the crater. Hey, it's warm. There's lava. I mean,
he's not just sitting in the brig, though. I mean, he's in a medically induced coma.
No, he's sitting in the brig. The other gal is in the medically induced coma. She's in the.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, the woman that was basically trying to steal the utility boat. You put into a freezer.
Okay.
So, I want to talk with these guys about if I should do it, what I should say, because I'm 90% prepared to say I am prepared to fucking turn you all into goddamn androids if you do not get the fuck in line.
I will hand you over to the chief medical office.
Shut the fuck up and do what the fuck we say and only what we say.
Yeah, I mean,
the over.
The argument I would make is just that we're not here for scientific discovery. We're here to deal with the entity. And so if we return home early, not having come close to completing our mission...
Well, hold on. That's not necessarily true. Because, I mean, almost tantamount to your end goal of dealing with the Deepnight entity, I would say probably a parallel primary would be to gather as much scientific data as possible on the way. You are the furthest out from charted space that anybody has ever gone.
That's fine and all, but the reality is, if we return early without anything being damaged on the damn ship, and with no reason for returning early other than crew felt they were bored, we're going to get a lot of heat. We need to finish this mission. And so we're going to continue in that to pursue the mission.
What about if we started implanting the idea that if we return unsuccessfully, we will be seen as traitors and punished most heinously?
We just crossed the rift. We want to see what's on the other side of the rift.
You're about halfway across the rift.
Yeah, exactly. We want to see what's on the other side of the rift. Let's keep going.
No.
I mean, this is stupid. Why the hell would you turn around mid-rift?
That's exactly what I've said on every date that ended up in the backseat of my car in high school. Why would you turn around when you've already reached half mid-rift?
Yeah.
So, I don't know, Mel. Are you gonna? Does that answer your question?
I think Mel can go talk to them and at least hear their questions and their concerns, but more importantly, Mel can get a list of the people that are involved in this, and then we can re-educate that shit out of them.
We'll just send them to the camps.
Well, no, I mean through
fucking robots.
Through therapy sessions and medications and psionic manipulation. I think we can change their minds.
Yeah, I mean, that's not impossible. I guess. I mean,
we can
I guess the ultimate question
robots.
is Mel going to go to this town hall meeting?
I probably should.
I can give you some trank gas. They all just wake up in the in the med bay.
So, going to this town hall meeting, Mel, go ahead and make a recon plus intellect check.
Not very good.
So you you kind of come in, and there are a lot of people. This is taking place on one of the hangar decks because of so many people. Just initially, at first glance when you enter the hangar deck, you're wondering whether or not your your brain is kind of looking at this many people, wondering if 2/3 of the entire ship's crew is here. And the next thing that immediately becomes again that becomes apparent to you is that none of these people are mutinous. They're not. That they are simply talking back and forth about the pros and cons of presenting the possibility of a turnaround to the command crew. Now, what their biggest worry is that it's been a long time since you guys dropped a one of the information beacons. Now, initially, there was a plan to drop 3 of those beacons. And basically from Denman Point to, my goodness, I have to go way back. Let's see. I don't even know if I have that map up anymore. I don't believe I do. It was a long time ago. And you guys did actually make the effort to drop one additional beacon, but I believe that one was around. I gotta look at the name of that system. So much has happened. The Erline Home system, I believe you dropped a data beacon. And the thing about that is that system technically was kind of lost, even to the Erline people of that entire sector of space. And so whether or not any other ships that would follow you would make their way through that system and pick that data up is questionable at best. And so the biggest thing with probably 99% of the people here is that we're not dropping these beacons anymore. And so if something, and this last event that happened really pressed home, with 2 boats down and the number of injuries that we had. It pressed home the fact that if the Deepnight Revelation, the end goal is not guaranteed, and if something should happen, everything that we've learned is lost. How do you want to broach that subject?
Well, I think that's probably a reasonable concern, but we're halfway across the rift. If we drop one now, who the hell's going to pick it up? And I don't know if you've ever read Macbeth, but we're already halfway over, so it's just as easy to go forward as it is to go back. And it makes no sense to go back, just drop a fucking beacon, turn back around, and go across the rift, because our mission is to wipe out the Deepnight entity.
Yeah, because we may find that this is a really inconvenient spot to return to.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, that's true. And right now, of course, you're in jump. But, I mean, somebody brings up, for instance, that this F7 unstable star that you just left. In fact, let me find a flight pod. Whoops.
Seems like a particularly bad place to drop a beacon, because who the hell knows how that's going to continue to disintegrate.
True, but for instance, we're gonna put Mel over here in the full hangar. So they bring up, the F7 star that you just came from, um, is a good example. It will be a stable refueling location for the next couple thousand years. That would have, in most of the crew's eyes, that would have been a perfect spot to drop a information buoy. And we didn't.
So this, not necessarily mutiny, but this discontent is because 2 players fucking forgot to drop a beacon.
Well,
I don't know how to solve that problem.
well, it's not that you guys forgot. I mean, it's not you guys or that are forgetting to drop the beacons. It is no longer a mission goal to drop any more beacons.
we dropped one
The
too many systems back when we were with the other.
the airline system.
Yeah, there we go.
But that one, you guys specifically decided to drop it, and the crew loves that idea, but they think that another one needs to be dropped. One,
well, we can certainly accommodate that.
The Erline one is on one side of the rift. Let's drop another one when we get out of the rift. It doesn't make sense to be dropping them in the rift.
True, except for the fact that, like that last star system, if you were to cross the rift, that is an obvious point to stop at because it's going to be there for the next couple thousand years.
We've got one at the entrance, and we'll have one at the exit. I don't see that we need one in between two.
Well, and their argument for that is that the droid created an entire temple on a frozen star. I mean, that might be a little bit egotistical, and the droids clearly had the ability to do so, but shouldn't we be doing the same thing? Is their argument?
Well, if you're going to Monday morning quarterback us and you didn't do the suggestion while we were in the system, then really it's on you too. I mean, every one of you has got to open fucking communications with everybody. We're not that big of a fucking crew. You're telling me that you don't know the captain's email address and to type in your concern and going, hey, can we request to drop an information buoy? This is why we fucking do it. I mean, I don't understand why all of a sudden, I mean, if we've had counseling, we've been trying to talk out your problems and all this other shit, and you've been holding this in and bottling this in all this time, and really all you had to do was say, hey, can we drop a fucking information buoy? This is a opportune place. I mean, it's not like we only stay for 10 minutes and we're gone. You know, I mean, I got it. If bitching after the fact is shit.
I think Bocephus is right. I mean, let's look. I'm all for blazing a trail, like in the original meaning of the term, not the advertised meaning of the term, like literally marking the fucking trail so you know which way you went by dropping a beacon or two in the middle of the rift. Probably is not a terrible idea. So in case we fail, another mission comes behind us.
But we literally just dropped one like 5 jumps back. I mean, considering how many jumps we've made, it seems pretty ridiculous to be dropping one now.
That's not.
Are they rare commodities, or can we generate a new one?
Oh, you can generate a new one. I mean, essentially, these things are little more than. I mean, they're little more than an advanced probe. Yeah, the advanced probe on page 211 of the robot handbook Essentially is what these things are.
It sounds to me like you got a whole bunch of fucking volunteers that want to build these probes, put them together, and drop them periodically as we move about. And I don't have a problem with any of that shit.
So
I'm not turning this ship around though, so we can drop it at that last system.
no, and they're not suggesting turning around. I mean, some of them might be suggesting turning around, but not for the purposes of going back and dropping a buoy. But a crewman named Othen Kawaku, who Mel knows through his through his black market connections, is a highly competitive gamer, gambling specifically. He's got a bit of a problem. Has kind of taken over the makeshift, um, the makeshift museum that was originally set up by crewman Rakes Delvan. And Rakes Delvan is no longer in charge of it because she was one of the mutineers that you left on the planet back there. 3 or 4 jumps back. And
Deservedly so.
deservedly so. Yeah, she threw in her lot with the wrong group, and that was kind of that. But this guy has kind of taken over. Othen has taken over this dealing with this museum, and basically he's doing a better job of it than Rakes was, and he's a little bit more. He's he's not taking things that don't belong to the missing crew members and putting them there. He's returning them to the inventory as they should be. But he has the idea that he says. So he goes, going back to the droid pyramid that they built on that frozen star. He says, what if when we get to a suitable location, we were to make some kind of monument? He goes, it doesn't have to be necessarily a sensor buoy, or it could be a sensor buoy and a monument, but something to draw attention to all of the things that we as a crew and everything that this ship has done be momentalized in this giant monument. And one of the other crew members speaks up. He goes, well, we could. I mean, we've seen the droid. They've cleared off spaces on planets or planetoids, clearly using like plasma beams. We could use fusion beams that we have right on the ship to flatten out a surface, and we could create an entire documentary in binary on it that details everything we've done. That way, even if whoever's following us isn't another human mission, they would be able to read it, assuming they know the most basic of mathematics.
You've actually almost put me at a loss for words. That is all right. How long would it take you to make one of those? If we're in system for 5 hours, 2 days, how much resources and how much time will that take? Because we're not stopping to build an empire for you to your glory as you traipse across this.
Well, generally, when you're in a system to refuel, assuming that things aren't too chaotic, a standard typical refueling takes anywhere from 4 to 5 days, anyways. So during that time, some of the crew, and assuming that we are able to get authorization from the captain to use the fusion beams that Deepnight already has installed, that we haven't really used for anything other than stellar information, studying nebula and things like that. If we were to use those to flatten out an area and we sent a small crew down in one of the pinnaces, it wouldn't take more than a day or two.
So you want permission to be glorified graffiti artists tagging the fucking universe as we travel across the expanse.
Yes, that is exactly what they
Riff.
want. They want to vandalize a planet to glorify the adventures and misadventures of Deepnight Revlation.
Yeah, it's not going to fucking happen.
We will explore this idea and determine the available resources and time and crew people that we can devote to that, and we'll release our findings when we come to a satisfactory conclusion on the best uses of resources.
Okay, go ahead and make a
Nicest possible way to say, are you fucking stupid?
Go ahead and make a persuade plus social check.
Oh, this is bad news. This is why I shouldn't have done this, kids.
Okay, so
not the worst I could have seen.
So the people all nod and they're like, okay, yeah. And they all, the general gist that you get is that this entire congregation of people hanging out in the hangar bay is all nodding and thinking that you've got a plan of action and you're gonna, we have a point of contact.
I'll make it real clear for him. It isn't going to happen. You're not going to be altering other planets unless it's needed for our mission. That is not necessary. We're not the ancients. We're not planting seeds for future colonies or anything like that. If you want to record your own documentaries of what we've been doing, be happy to help film everything you want. You can glorify the shit out of yourselves. When you get back, you could have an entire series ready to be released for the public. But we're not carving our names into planets. You're not the ancients, and we're not trying to be the ancients.
I happen to think it's not an unhealthy use of their time. It gives them a purpose and something to work on.
They can work on their own documents. They can create documentaries. They can journal.
I don't necessarily think that we're wanting to dedicate a whole crew to 5 or 6 days, but I mean, if they wanted to store some data on a probe and do it with binary and something to go in orbit, we could release it as we go there. I think maybe that might be a happy medium than just fuck I mean, it's a third of the crew. I mean, you gotta take it. We got to deal with that either through deceitful ways through psychology or
deceitful ways like through psychology. I love that answer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just talking as player to player here. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, if it's a third of the crew that is stating something, I don't think long term. I think we got to at least make an appearance that we're trying to make middle ground, or give them some credence to, we hear you're concerned, or I mean, we could just shoot the shit and bullshit them and make them
start putting up
on
suggestion boxes around the ship.
Yeah, just throw the fucking suggestions away. Yeah. I mean, I don't think we should just blatantly tell them no.
I do. You do have to set some expectations, and the reality is we're on a critical mission that could save the entire freaking universe. We're not just going out here and jerking off and coming home. You
say that, but look at all the jerking off that Bocephus has done.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying that they all have the ability to create their own lasting journals and documents. When they return, they can sell themselves as action heroes that have saved the universe. They're desecrating a planet that they're never going to return to. Is not helpful, and so yeah, it's not. We're not doing that.
I mean, you don't know. I mean, real estate on top of a gigantic flattened out mountain with binary written all over it might be highly valuable.
You are not going to see any of these places more than once. You know, beyond we, if you're lucky, we'll return this way. But don't assume that we will, and therefore everything you do is just gone. So let's not waste the time desecrating planets when it's just not of any use to us.
Okay. Okay. So that's how you choose that.
You can document it. Here's a camera. Here's a selfie. We can have you talk about it. You can name it in your video, and as you explain about how you're so heroic, whatever you want to do. But we're not going to go carve your name into the planet or whatever the hell you wanted to do.
I think we should take their names down. You know, if Mel is in there and he's like, "Yeah, man, we're gonna run this up the y'all go ahead and sign this petition so I can take it to the captain, and then we'll just take the people that signed the petition, right? And we're gonna give them some insane, you know, we'll work on them. We'll make them so they're not so, you know."
It's like those people that got to pay the money to own a star. It's like
Right.
you just paid that
Yeah.
guy to write your name down on a list somewhere.
Well,
if we know who they are, then we know that I can start
it wasn't there some
fucking with their
asshole
emotions and
like
stuff.
20 years ago that was selling plots on Mars? Like,
Oh,
does that even? That does that doesn't even count, right? I mean, we're not even there yet. I mean, let's assume that King Dipshit Elon Musk is successful and gets to Mars. Do those land deeds count? How
It
does
depends on what lawyers they have.
that's
and
right? How much money you
who
spend on
fucking-
lawyers, right?
I mean, it depends on how the court can. I mean, that shit's untried. But I mean, let me tell you, if I buy a plot of land on Mars and you land your fucking mission there, and I decide I want to charge you rent, if my lawyers play the right fucking cards and I get the right judge and maybe even the right jury, however it goes down, you're gonna pay my ass. Is the way that'll work out.
I own 1 square foot of land in Scotland, which makes me a lord. And I'll tell you right now, I'm concerned that somebody mowing the grass is stepping on my property. But
See,
but
they need to pay for
right,
that.
that's right. So over the rest of this jump, Bocephus, are you studying? Or are you still working on Lynn and her leg?
I mean, well, if I think Lynn ought to be kind of
Yeah, I mean,
off my bit.
Yeah,
now,
you've given. I mean, anybody who's ever been through physical rehabilitation, I mean, essentially after the first 2 or 3 times, especially with something major, they already know what to do. They're going to either do the exercises or not. You don't have to babysit them. You can add a week to your study periods if you would like.
I'm not studying. I am going to use psychology to combat this new faction that Mel has the people on, and I'm going to try to fucking make them happy about this reality.
Okay, go ahead and make a science psychology plus education check.
10.
Okay, so you are kind of counseling people, and you're hearing now that Mel has met with these people at town hall. Everybody that you are interviewing during counseling sessions seems to have an opinion on this. So one of the things that you kind of glean from this, or that you in your medical opinion. So one of these factions being the imperialists. So the imperialists, where am I at here? So the imperialists, of course, are in it to win it for the Third Imperium. They are hoo-ah. Everything is about saving the Imperium, right? But
Hmm.
one of the things that you're picking up from this is that um, that feeling that they have, that the imperialists seem to have towards getting to the end point and putting a stop to this, could theoretically change to supporting the people that want the mission to turn around and go home if there was another threat that was found. They could be swayed. If you guys ran across another threat before reaching Terminus Point, they could be swayed into saying, well, we need to turn around and warn the Imperium, is kind of the overriding feeling that you get amongst the Imperial faction.
Do they have a leader in this Imperium faction?
I wouldn't necessarily say a leader, but hold on here. I need to find her. There we go. But yes, and I mean they don't. She isn't the leader of the Imperial faction, but they definitely look to her that way, and it would be Sir Alex Venati, who
Yeah.
was one of the people that was a mutineer in the first group of mutineers that you ever ran across, and was dealt, she was dealt with, and she has been pretty much a exemplary officer since then. I mean, you guys tell her to jump, and she wants to know how high.
I want to give her a telepathic suggestion.
Okay.
And the suggestion is that we must go to terminate point. There is no reason great enough not to do it.
Okay.
So I mean it's a very difficult 12 plus telepathy check,
Yep.
right?
Telepathy plus psi.
Yeah. Yeah. So can I take my time with this because I'm doing it over a period of different sessions?
You probably wouldn't be able to do it over a period of multiple sessions in the week, but you could spend additional points. I would say if you were to spend 3 additional points, you could lower that to, where is my thing here?
To a difficult.
You could lower that to difficult 10 plus.
Let's do that.
So it would be a total of 6 points.
10.
You got it.
That's on the dot. Yeah.
Okay, so you plant the suggestion, and it during your session with her, it takes you all of a little under a minute, 50 seconds, to plant the suggestion in her that Terminus Point has to be the end goal.
Yep.
I mean, it's not an unreasonable suggestion. This is like a galaxy-wide extinction level event.
Right.
Yep. But if they're faltering, that's no problem. We'll just, I'll keep on track each week.
You'll just keep mind fucking them until they get it.
I'll just keep mind fucking people until they fall in line, and they'll be happy. We'll be fine. If we need to start eavesdropping on them.
Mel, are you adding a week of study, or is there anything else you want to do during the week?
Well, I did just add a week of study. Do I need to Is this a different week or is this?
This is a different week. Yeah, this
Okay,
is
and
yet another weekend jump.
so if nobody else has, if we haven't identified anybody else to be the black marketeer,
That is a problem. Yes.
then and I don't have any likely candidates that aren't in the fucking brig.
Let's see
I
here. We did
Don't
have
really see a way around it besides me doing it.
looking. We did have another candidate.
Got the gambler.
The gambler's not a bad one. Although he's kind of not that he can't do the museum and be a black marketeer. Let's see. There is another one. I like this guy. Fond of weapons, but in a generally positive way.
Hell yeah.
Like him already.
I know I like him. Yes. Let's see here.
I do think
Here we go. This
that
guy. Yes, there is another candidate. The other candidate is Burgess Kinney, who is a small-scale scrounger and dabbles. He's a petty black marketeer. He works as one of the deck gang in the hangars. Very, very. When I say petty black marketeer, like he's low man on the totem pole. It's not like he's the first person that anybody goes to, but he could be.
Oh, does he have the organizational skills necessary to run something as complicated as this?
I don't know. Let's see what his intellect is. Just for shits and giggles. Yeah, he's got an intellect of 5. I mean, he's
there's a reason why he's a low man.
Yeah, he's a knuckle dragger on the deck. He he's good at turning a wrench. What's his education? Well, he's not very intelligent, but he's got a 9 for education. He's more educated than he is smart.
And those are my favorite people, both in game and outside.
Right? The ones that are highly educated but dumb as a fucking board. Yes, I love those. Dumber than a box of hair, but they got A's. Yes. So, I mean, there is him. But maybe it's her. The name like Burgess, it could go either way.
Okay.
So that was the other option that you've identified. I mean,
who's the quartermaster of the military arm?
That would be, and I have an answer for that. Let me find my chapter on crew. Crew. Here we go. So the quartermaster is Aloisio Graffi. He is colloquially known as custodian of the nukes. He's a former mining engineer. Before that, he was a corporal in the Imperial Army. Army, not Marines or Navy, but Army. So he was a ground pounder. He's in his mid-40s. He had no real. They picked him because of his previous experience in excavation and extraction using explosives, but he had no actual experience with nuclear devices. But he was given training on it and was chosen by the corporation as he was the most likely candidate, and he passed all the courses, and so he is now the quartermaster He is a hardworking, diligent, and popular with the crewmates, and is generally known as someone who can be depended on in a tight spot or to get in on a round of drinks. He's known for playing fair, which, in your opinion, can sometimes be a double-edged sword. On the one hand, he will remember and return favors, and on the other, he will not forget someone who has let him down or wronged him.
What do you think, guys?
There is one.
That seems the most logical choice.
There. Go ahead and make a. Go ahead and make a streetwise plus intellect check.
This is not going to go well.
And your quartermaster might be the guy. I
Oh,
don't
look
know.
at that! Fucking I'm rolling on my ass on Streetwise.
So there is. It occurs to you. There is one other possibility. There is a crewman named Avon Tressel, and Avon is fairly nondescript. He does not draw attention to himself. He, looking over his service record since Deepnight began, he doesn't really rise to the top, but he doesn't. At the same time, he doesn't ever drop to the bottom. He's a member. He's also a member of the deck division. He often volunteers to join planetside expeditions, whether that's because he desires to get off boat or because he's a go-getter, is questionable. But he's known to be broadly competent in both shipboard and planetside environments. And the reputation he has among the crew is oft-stated that he has a love of cake. But he's not overweight. But everybody that you ask says, "Oh yeah, that guy, he fucking loves cake." And that's what they remember about him, rather than any outstanding competence or lack of it.
Well, he sounds like an outstanding salesman to me.
Well, you don't really necessarily need to be a salesman to be a black marketeer. You just have to have access to the shit. And I guess other people need to know that you have access to the shit. But at the same time, an excellent quality for a black marketeer is somebody who flies under the radar. And this guy really, really flies under the radar. You have met him once before. He was playing pool with both Cephas in one of the mess lounges just prior to the murder of the last black marketeer that you had. Or the first black marketeer. The one that landed you into kind of having to deal with all of this.
What do you guys think? The gray man or the quartermaster who might be offended by the request, but
This is Avon Tressel.
probably could manage the distribution of this shit.
I think the quartermaster might be my personal thing. The gray man, I think you noticing him to be just like he is. I think he needs to be investigated more than given more perks. Just my opinion.
This is the quartermaster Aloisio Graffi.
He looks less goofy than the other dude. The other dude looks shady.
Shady in a completely nondiscreet way.
Yeah.
He's shady in the way that nobody pays attention to him. I don't trust that bastard.
Let's say quartermaster already has the contacts. He's already dealing with everybody. His ability to move around the ship. He's got access to all kinds of shit.
Or, of course, and I don't have a picture of Burgess, or you could pick the petty black marketeer Burgess Kinney.
Yeah,
Take
he's
him
another
from
option.
small scale scrounger to mafioso of black market.
I'm gonna approach Alessio.
Okay, so what are you presenting to Aloysia?
Well, I'll tell him that the ship has a certain need that management has to ignore. And it doesn't strictly fall underneath your, I don't know, remit, but I need somebody trustworthy, loyal to the mission that can meet these unmet wants and desires of the crew that are necessary on a long-term mission to make them shut the fuck up. Without offending you, you seem to be the most likely candidate of someone who's able to do it well, but not fuck me in the ass later
So,
in a bad, non-consensual way.
make a recon plus intellect check. So you're sitting in his office, in one of the armories, and this is the armory that always most people, probably you included, makes the hair on the back of your neck kind of stand up, because you know that this is where the primary locker for at least two of the nuclear devices is stored, and it is locked up, safe and secure. But knowing that that's what's inside the locker makes you nervous. And he's, of course, sitting behind his desk and listening quite intently to you. You notice that across his desk are a number um, of hand computers, and on all of these hand computers, he is essentially filling out detailed paperwork. Like what you notice about these is that he fills out everything and details everything. And his first question to you is, he says, I understand what you're saying. He says, my question is, does the captain and the XO know about this?
Officially, no. Just like I don't know anything about it.
He says, okay, I understand. He says, and these needs and wants of the crew, he says, he says, I'm not oblivious to it. He says, I myself have partaken. He says, I'm aware that there are at least two stills aboard, and I have partaken of those, as well as a couple of other luxury items from back home. He says, so I know that this goes on. He says, what about, and he says, I am also aware that there is a crewman that is in our brig, and there is some rumors and scuttlebutt going around about why that is. I do note that that he ended up in the brig around the same time that a number of our crew opted to stay on a planet that we had visited. He said, so this kind of lends credence to the rumors. He says, what is the rule on this about items from the ship's stores and inventory?
No,
He says,
they're off limits.
So we're strictly talking about anything that we find planet side that crew members seem to bring aboard, and want to trade amongst themselves liquor, 3D printed items, things of that nature.
Yes, and let's just say, with our gentleman sitting in the brig, that I have, we have, we have not been super satisfied with this kind of operation being run by actual fucking criminals.
Understandable. Go ahead and make a persuasion plus. Your choice. You can either make a persuasion plus social check or a leadership plus social check, but either way, you get to make it with a boon. So it's roll 3 and take the 2 highest.
Well, it's definitely going to be persuade, because I'm at least trained in that. And if it makes you feel any better, I have ready-made stock for you.
That definitely does make him feel better. Okay, so he says he shakes your hand and he says I think you have somebody on board for this. He does tell you he's not entirely confident in your decision. He says he brings up a good point in that he says that he, for the most part, tries to do everything by the book. I make sure that inspections are carried out. I don't deviate usually from the rules. He says, so this is all new territory for me. He says, in my opinion, you almost need somebody who is used to working outside of the regs. And I am not that person. But it sounds like the person that you had was all the way outside the regs, so maybe you need a little bit of me.
What I actually want is someone who will operate it like a fucking business.
He says, well, that I can do.
To the extent that you have to shade outside the line a touch, but the procedures, the inventory tracking, the customer tracking, you can do it all. It's just because ultimately it's never going to be used against a crewman unless they are already in deep fucking shit and we need something else to pin on them. You know what I mean?
He says, I understand.
I'm just going for a trustworthy person to give us the outlet that some of our crewmates need.
And he thinks...
And won't think it's a good fucking idea to steal pinnaces and fucking groundcraft and military stores just to fucking mutineers. That's just a terrible idea.
Yeah, no, he's completely he says no. As soon as that was requested, I would have immediately gone to you or to the bridge. So he thinks that he can, from what you have outlined and asked him to do, he believes that he can do that.
Excellent.
So then my question is, Sarda, is there anything that you're doing during the week, or are you studying? Yep, you're muted.
Yeah, let's. So I want to start a program for people who want to learn to document create their own documentaries, so that they can, commemorate this entire trip. And when they step off the ship when we are returned, they'll have something to hand off and use to become famous. And so, yeah, I'm basically going to be doing a program for people on how to how to do visual journals and things like that, so that they
You're gonna
can.
create a bunch of TikTok influencers.
Yes. There's gonna be 500 TikTok influencers as soon as you get back.
If it keeps them from fucking carving planets up, yeah, you know, just as long as they're not doing it on shift, I don't care. You know, make their own little journals. It'll be great. When one of them dies, we can pull it out. We can play it.
Make an
Yeah.
make an admin plus intellect or education check.
All right.
Okay, so you spend the week and you come up with a suitable program, basically guidelines for people and suggestions for people to create these documentaries for themselves.
Yeah, and I'll
their
I'll go
mission.
through old footage that we have and let people, copy and paste pieces of that to make it, because we've got stuff that everybody can claim.
Stock art.
Well, it's not. I mean, it's B-roll, right?
Right. Yeah, it's B-roll.
But I mean, in this B-roll, they're gonna find themselves doing stuff. So I mean, it's important B-roll for their.
Either. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, we want to let people make movies where they're all the heroes.
Do either of y'all have stealth skills and maybe mechanic or engineering skills?
I definitely have engineering, although really my specialty is J drive. I'm trained in stealth. What was the other one? Mechanic.
Well, yeah. That are
trained in that. At all.
Yeah, I'm thinking that maybe we ought to start doing surveillance on the crew, and planting bugs and cameras.
I'm thinking that if this TikTok fad goes through, we won't need to.
I mean, you technically, I mean, we've already gone over, we've ran into this. I mean, there are security cameras all over this ship. There are some blind spots. I mean, there's not going to be a security camera in individual quarters, obviously, or bugs for privacy reasons. But, I mean, there are certainly security cameras all over that hangar deck where the meeting took place.
Okay. Well, the reason I'm asking is I'm thinking if we start actually doing active surveillance on listening to people and what they're talking about and all that, we might be able to, find mutineers as they're actually planning their mutiny instead of, finding out about them as they're stealing our shit.
Yeah. I mean, you could put that program into place too.
Yeah, would like to put that into place then.
Okay.
Maybe,
Well, we will go ahead and break here. We'll pick up next week with you guys coming into the DSS-5 system and its interesting situation next week at 6 o'clock on Friday night.
Cool.
All right.
It was pretty fun.
Sounds good.
All right. Have a good night, guys, and I will see you next week.
Take care, all.
Take it easy. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.